Hello, everyone. In this episode, we will learn about a shocking case that happened in the capital Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, a land famous for its strict traditional rules and uncompromising laws. A story that seems to only exist in movies, but actually happened in real life, when a beautiful housewife was caught up in an affair with her neighbor. But what happened next was a series of tragedies that no one could have predicted. When the husband accidentally discovered the betrayal, he did not immediately explode, but instead secretly planned meticulously for revenge. The climax of the anger did not stop at confrontation, but was a cruel revenge plan. What pushed an ordinary man to the brink of crime? How did the young wife fall into that cruel spiral? And can she escape the sentence that her husband himself placed on her shoulders? Let's turn over each piece of this horrifying case. You won't want to miss any details. Fatima, the victim of this case, was a Muslim woman born and raised in a traditional family in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Fatima was a promising young girl. As the youngest daughter in a middle-class family, Fatima was raised in a strict environment with strong moral values, where maintaining family honor and adhering to social norms were always given top priority. From a young age, Fatima was taught to be a responsible woman, to respect traditions, and to follow religious rules. Her family encouraged her to study hard in housework, family management, and religious observance. Fatima, who was originally a gentle, calm, and kind person, always tried to improve herself, to become a model daughter, worthy of her family's pride. She is described by everyone as a girl with a sensitive heart, full of compassion and very caring for those around her. However, in the traditional society she lives in, relationships and communication with the opposite sex are strictly limited, making Fatima a girl with few friends and lacking life experiences outside of her family. At that time, Fatima was of marriage balage, and according to local custom, her parents started to arrange meetings with suitable families. Although she had never experienced love or any kind of relationship, she always believed that love would come after marriage, and she would try to fulfill her duties. That was when she met Omar, a successful and mature man, the perfect role model that her family wanted for her. Meeting Omar in 2015 opened a new chapter in Fatima's life, where she entered a marriage with the support and expectations of her family. Omar is a man, mature and respected in Saudi Arabian society. Born into a well-off family in Riyadh, Omar inherited both tradition and high expectations from his family. As a manager in the oil industry, Omar not only has a high position, but also a high income, which helps him gain admiration and respect from society. Omar has a calm and decisive appearance, always showing himself to be a strong and courageous man. He values family honor, always adheres to the traditional and strict principles of Islamic culture. For him, family and career are two core elements in life, and he does not allow anything to harm his honor. When he reached the age of marriage, Omar looked for a wife who met traditional standards, who could take care of the family, and always maintained privacy and purity. Meeting Fatima, a gentle, traditional, and capable girl, fulfilled all his expectations in a wife. He believed that Fatima would be the ideal woman, standing behind to support and nurture the family while he continued to pursue his career. After their wedding in 2015, Omar and Fatima's life seemed to be filled with happiness and fulfillment. They enjoyed the early days of their marriage in peace and comfort, with plenty of material things and no worries about the future. However, as time passed, the distance between them grew, as Omar devoted most of his time and mind to work. As a responsible and ambitious manager in the oil industry, Omar was constantly busy with projects and long business trips. Fatima gradually realized the absence in her married life. As Omar spent less and less time with her, with no one else but housework to fill the void whenever he was away, Fatima began to feel lonely and lost. She always tried to attract her husband's attention, but it seemed that Omar was too absorbed in his career to realize her emotional needs. For Omar, delaying the plan to have children seemed like a reasonable decision at the time. He believed that when their careers were more stable, they would start thinking about children, but this delay caused their marriage to lack an important bond. Without a child to connect the couple together, the distance between Omar and Fatima became more obvious. Fatima felt like a quiet shadow in Omar's life, no longer a top priority, but just a side part of his busy life. Just like that, the rift in their marriage grew silently, without anyone noticing. In 2018, Omar and Fatima's marriage gradually became cold. She waited, hoping that he would spend some time with her, but in return, she was lonely and quiet, although she did not say it in her heart. Fatima felt empty, lacking the care and comfort from the husband she once considered everything. During that time, she accidentally met Saleem, a neighbor living in the same residential area. Saleem was a calm, kind man and always ready to help everyone around. The first meetings were just polite greetings, a few short stories when Fatima met him on the way home. But those short conversations made her feel comforted, something she had long lacked in her married life. Saleem also helped Fatima many times when she encountered small difficulties, such as when her car had problems, or when she needed to repair some furniture in the house. Every time, Saleem was always willing to be there, giving her a sense of security and closeness. Fatima gradually felt that Saleem was the only one who understood her loneliness. Their feelings began to grow from conversations, sympathetic looks, and sincere care. At first, Fatima only considered Saleem as a friend to share her feelings, but gradually she could not deny that she felt attracted to him. The gentle care and listening that she did not receive from Omar made her heart flutter. Fatima did not intend to betray her husband, but her weakness and loneliness gradually led her to fall into a dangerous relationship. Saleem felt this too, but both of them secretly understood that they could not let anyone else know about their feelings. As time passed, the secret conversations became more frequent, and they began to meet in secret in places no one knew. Fatima, a woman who had always kept her family safe, was now caught up in a forbidden love affair. She knew she was on a dangerous path, but her weakness and intense feelings made her unable to stop. One afternoon, Fatima came to Saleem's house in her hurry and excitement. They had carefully chosen a time when no one would see them, or at least they thought so. In that small, quiet room, they had brief moments when they seemed to be alone together without any fear, but they did not know that a neighbor happened to see them. This person caught a glimpse of Fatima entering Saleem's house and with a hint of suspicion, secretly observed. With the strict rituals and traditions in the residential area, it was very suspicious for a married woman to go to another man's house without any apparent reason. Sensing something was wrong, the neighbor decided to report it to Omar. When he found out Omar was speechless, he felt like his whole world had collapsed in an instant. But instead of exploding with anger or confronting Fatima right away, he chose to stay calm and act slowly. Omar was a calm person, and that personality made him choose to plan carefully before facing this betrayal. A few days later, Omar pretended not to know anything, continuing his daily life with a calm look. He woke up early to go to work, came home on time, and treated Fatima as usual. But whenever Fatima was not around, he would quietly check the whole house, carefully examining every corner to find a suitable place to install a camera. For Omar, this was a way to have evidence in hand so that there would be no more doubts about his wife's betrayal. After a period of observation, Omar chose discreet locations in the living room and bedroom, places that he believed Fatima would never notice. He carefully installed the camera system, avoiding any signs that might arouse her suspicions. Every day, he calmly watched the videos, waiting for the moment when he could be sure that the betrayal he had heard about was not just a rumor. Omar was ready, but he said nothing. He let Fatima and Saleem continue their meeting in the dark, confident that one day they would make a mistake. As time passed, Omar waited patiently, pretending to know nothing, filled with pent-up anger that he would use to confront his wife if he had clear evidence. One day, in June 2018, Omar started his workday as usual, looking calm and composed. He walked out of the house, got into his car, and drove away, leaving Fatima at home, thinking that everything was normal. When Omar left Fatima, thinking that her husband had gone to work, met Saleem on a hidden corner, and that too decided to go to her house to spend some time together. Unaware of the existence of the secret cameras that Omar had secretly installed, Fatima and Saleem were immersed in an intimate moment, completely unaware that their every move was being recorded. When he returned home and watched the video, Omar could not contain his anger. He immediately confronted Fatima, leaving her shocked and frightened. He poured all his harsh words on her, asking why she betrayed him, why she destroyed the family they had built. Fatima could only keep silent, bowing her head in fear. Omar's anger exploded. He not only scolded her, but also beat her in a rage. Unable to control himself, then Omar made a request that made Fatima even more terrified. He told her to call Saleem, pretend nothing had happened, and meet Saleem at a deserted place in the suburbs. Fatima was scared but had no choice but to follow Omar's orders. Her hands were shaking. She picked up the phone, called Saleem, and tried to keep her voice calm. She told him that she wanted to meet him again, somewhere far away from the eyes of everyone. Saleem, not knowing what was waiting for him, accepted Fatima's request without a doubt. He thought that this was just another secret meeting like the previous ones. But Saleem could not have imagined at this time the appointment would bring him to the brink of an unexpected tragedy. As he entered the deserted area, he was startled to see Fatima waiting for him, but not with her familiar gentle expression, but with a bruised, pale, and haggard face. Beside her, Omar stood tall, his eyes filled with hatred and coldness, staring straight at Saleem. The feeling of unease quickly filled Saleem, and he knew he had fallen into a trap. Omar kept his voice cold, ordering Fatima to take the gun he placed in her hand, aiming at Saleem's feet. Fatima, her hands trembling, tried to beg Omar to stop, but his eyes were full of menace, leaving her no choice. Finally, she was forced to pull the trigger. The bullet pinned in Saleem's leg, causing him to fall to the ground, writhing in pain. But Omar's anger did not stop there. He continued to order Fatima to tie Saleem up so tightly that Saleem could not move. Fatima, in pain and despair, had no choice but to follow Omar's words, trying to hold back the tears that rolled down her face. When Saleem was completely helpless, Omar made the most cruel request. He forced Fatima to use a knife to cut off Saleem's penis as a severe punishment for her betrayal. Fatima was speechless, trying to beg Omar to stop, but his eyes were like a sharp knife, forcing her to have no other choice. With the gun still aimed at her, Omar forced her to do the terrible act that she could never imagine. Finally, when everything had gone beyond the limit of tolerance, Omar ordered Fatima to finish off Saleem. She did not want to do it, but under Omar's threat, with a gun close by, she had to do it, becoming an unwilling killer in the tragedy arranged by her husband. When everything ended, Omar just coldly turned away, leaving Fatima sitting next to Saleem's body in horror and pain. She now had to face the consequences of her own actions, when her moments of weakness led her into a nightmare with no way out. In a panic, Fatima decided to go to the police station to report the whole incident. Her hands were still shaking, and her eyes were filled with tears. She recounted everything in tears, from the threats, coercion, to the horrifying actions that Omar forced her to do. The police, faced with the serious and violent details of the case, immediately launched a manhunt for Omar. After leaving the scene, Omar quickly returned home, packed up the necessary items to prepare to flee. He took cash, personal documents, and a few belongings, then headed straight to the airport with the goal of leaving the country as soon as possible. Upon receiving the information, the police immediately took action, issued a wanted notice, and increased security at checkpoints, especially airports and border gates. A specialized investigation team was assigned to capture Omar, deployed to check all routes and monitor suspicious areas. Upon arriving at the airport, Omar went through the procedures calmly, but the security staff and police promptly identified him. The secret task force followed Omar's actions, waiting for him to reach the boarding gate to execute the arrest warrant. As soon as Omar arrived at the security check counter, the police immediately rushed in, surrounded him, and restrained him. He was arrested on the spot, without time to react or escape. After that, Omar was escorted to the police headquarters for investigation. At the police station, Omar confessed to the whole incident. During the interrogation, he admitted that he was the one who planned and carried out the series of revenge actions. Omar recounted every detail of the case, from discovering Fatima's betrayal to the actions he forced her to do with Saleem. Omar's testimony helped the police have a clear and accurate view of the developments of the case. The police then proceeded to verify the relevant evidence. The video footage from the secret camera that Omar had installed earlier was collected and thoroughly analyzed, providing direct evidence of the relationship between Fatima and Saleem, as well as Omar's behavior after discovering the truth. At the same time, the investigation team conducted an examination of the crime scene, recording all traces and the condition of Saleem's body to further strengthen the case. The results of the crime scene examination, together with the testimony and evidence from the camera, created a complete and undeniable evidence system. The case has since been cleared up, and all the necessary information has been gathered by the police in preparation for Omar's trial. During the trial in December 2018, Omar and Fatima faced severe judgments under Saudi Arabia's Islamic law. The case has attracted public attention due to its brutality and complexity, especially since the two's actions seriously violated the country's moral standards and legal regulations. In court, Omar was charged with violence, assault, and forced murder. Saudi Arabian law, based on Sharia law, has particularly harsh penalties for acts of violence and murder. Omar's actions were found to be not only violent, but also cruel revenge, causing death and serious damage to the victim's honor. For these crimes, the court sentenced Omar to death. This is the most severe penalty for intentional and cruel murder in Saudi Arabia, demonstrating the strictness of the law in protecting security and social morality. As for Fatima, she was convicted of adultery, a serious offense that violates Islamic morality. Under Islamic law, adultery is considered one of the most serious sins and is often severely punished. The court relied on video footage of Fatima committing adultery and the testimony of the parties to convict her. Fatima was sentenced to 100 lashes and 2 years in prison, the usual sentence for women convicted of adultery in Saudi Arabia. Sharia law stipulates that vlogging is a form of public punishment intended to warn and deter immoral behavior in the Muslim community. The verdicts for both Omar and Fatima reflect the severity of Saudi Arabian law, where crimes such as murder and adultery are not only against the law, but also against the country's deeply held religious values. The sentences handed down to Omar and Fatima also demonstrate the law's concern for maintaining a moral order in society, ensuring that individuals are held to strict moral and legal standards. The case of Omar and Fatima is a tragedy of rash actions and the outburst of long-suppressed emotions. In a Saudi society where religious and moral values are paramount, the actions of both were not only illegal, but also violated cultural norms and deeply held religious beliefs. The price of betrayal, anger, and hatred is severe sentences, marking a painful and haunting end. The severe punishments, not only for Omar but also for Fatima, demonstrate that the Saudi legal system always puts morality and religious standards first, emphasizing that every action must be paid. Their story is a warning to those who are torn between conflicting emotions and unshared loneliness. After following this case, what do you think about the harsh punishments that Fatima and Omar received under Saudi Arabian law? Leave your comments below. We always want to hear your views on this tragic and consequential case.